Hey brother! Today we are going to finally dive into the Marvel movie that people just can't stop talking about. That's right, Big Hero 6, which is in fact a Marvel movie. Okay, so maybe we've kind of taken our time getting around to this one.
I am not fast.
But today I want to talk about arguably the most critical character to the team's success.
I go front, I go back, I go inside out, then I go front and back.
That's right, Fred. Today we're going to explain how Fred got so rich. Big Hero 6 is hands down one of the most creative superhero teams out there in that none of them are actually super. Instead, each member is a somewhat less effective version of any kind of Iron Man power and a guy in a dragon costume. But in many ways, that makes each member of the team seem that much more relatable and even vulnerable in battle, but also so much more in tune with their powers because they literally invented them as like a school project. Don't you feel like more kids would get into science if it was just marketed differently to them? I mean, invent your own superpower? Come on! That's way better than what I did as a kid, which was, like growing beans in a wet paper towel. Cower in fear, criminals, slow-growing legume man is here! With my trusty sidekick, Sapling Kid. Now, obviously none of them, with maybe the exception of Hero, is quite as smart as Tony Stark, but the real issue that they have is that none of them is as wealthy as Tony Stark. Tony can afford to build whatever he wants, and not with like a 3D printer, I might add. But without funding, Big Hero 6 would end right about here, with the whole team cold, wet, and defeated. Kind of like my legume in the paper towel experiment. Except, of course, for
Heathcliff, my man!
Fred is inexplicably super rich. Now, to be clear, I don't have any issue with this at all. I think it's great that one of the members has offset his lack of genius with extreme wealth, but it is a major plot point for the movie. And largely it goes unexplained other than, yeah, Fred's family is super wealthy and he just so happens to hang out at the San Fransokyo Institute of Technology, where somehow none of his friends are even remotely aware of his monetary status. Although, to be fair to them, Fred does do a pretty good job of keeping it under wraps.
Yes, nothing is better than free food!
But when you think about Iron Man or even Batman, the source of their wealth is a key part of their stories. Tony is rich because he sells weapons, and those weapons get put to terrible use. Boom. Motivation. Bruce Wayne, of course, inherits his family's fortune, which was being put towards rebuilding a city, and then they were killed by the very thing they were trying to prevent. Boom. Motivation. Where the money comes from is important. So, sorry Fred, but we're going to need an explanation. And here's where things get fun. Upon closer inspection, the movie does kind of tell you where the fortune comes from. It's possible Fred is descended from royalty.
What about invisible sandwich? Imagine eating a sandwich, but everybody just thinks you're crazy.
Oh yeah, that's royal blood, all right. Don't worry, it makes more sense when you find out who he's descended from.
We finish each other's
sandwiches.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, invisible sandwiches, because Fred is descended from none other than Hans. Yeah, I know, the last time that we saw him, he was just punched in the face clean off of a boat and then presumably just shoveling manure for the rest of his life. But based on what we see in Big Hero 6, I think we have to assume that at some point in his life, he had time for a family. The first and most obvious clue of them all is right here. Whoa! Did you happen to catch it? Right here. Boom! Yes, that is a statue of none other than Hans himself in Fred's courtyard. I mean, why would you have a statue of him at all? He didn't seem like a super dude, so being related to him is basically the only explanation. Okay, sure, maybe this is just a fun Easter egg that calls back to Anna punching Hans square in the face, but alas, I think it is also a clue to Fred's wealth. Upon entering Fred's house, we get to see Fred showing his friends around as they walk down some massive hallways with some very interesting paintings, including this one. Now, this may appear to be nothing more than a simple Bob Ross landscape, but in fact, it is a painting of the Kingdom of Arendelle, a region that Hans obviously was super familiar with, although to be fair, not actually from. But fortunately, we do know where he is from.
What's his last name?
Of the Southern Isles.
And where does Fred say that his family is during the events of Big Hero 6?
They're on a vacay on the family island.
The Southern Isles, in case you are wondering, are just southeast of Arendelle, which would put them near or in the region of Denmark. Which is important for a couple of reasons in how it relates directly to Fred. First of all, what is the thing that he suggests that they do upon visiting the private island?
Frolic.
Frolic? It's an innocent enough suggestion, but kind of an odd choice of word. I mean, do any of you just go like frolicking on your island vacations? I mean, me personally, I go like on long walks on the beach and relax and play putt-putt and eat way too many ice cream cones. Frolic stands out to us here because the word itself is of Dutch origin. Now, yes, I hear all of you screaming at the screen that Dutch is actually Netherlands and has nothing at all to do with Denmark, but the countries are like this far apart and the Southern Isles is already a fictional location, so I think living inside of that region is perfectly okay. The point is, frolic is the type of word you may specifically use to describe an activity you might do in this region of the world on your private island. The other reason why Dutch culture is relevant to Fred is this painting of a dead pheasant, which is prominently displayed center screen. Now, I'm sure many of you are thinking at home, like, what more reason do we need to display a dead pheasant other than the sheer beauty of the thing? To which I say, I totally agree, it's glorious and I want one. But the reason why it's important is this particular type of painting is a still life painting. Still life paintings are a form of painting that offer the artist a little bit more freedom over the subject matter opposed to a portraiture or a landscape. But why it stands out here is because this particular form of art was developed in the 16th and 17th century in none other than, yes, Netherlands. Even the phrase still life comes from the Dutch word still even. Stillaven. 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 Anyone else hearing Yanny? Now, moving away from the Dutch Netherlands stylings of the manor itself, let's move on to something else that we find in the mansion that directly connects him to Hans. Namely, this painting here of a man on a horse. But not just any horse. This horse is unmistakably none other than Citron, Hans's horse that drops him into the fjord. Ugh, like still just annoys me so much that he smiles right there. Like, why is he smiling? He's got some kind of like evil plan going on and yet he's just smiling like a stupid little dork muffin. Yeah, I said it. Dork muffin. Anyway, so far we have a statue of Hans himself, a mansion that is full of things that are from the part of the world that Hans is from, and a painting of Hans's horse. Do we have anything else? Well, both Fred and Hans have very similar plot twists about their personality, just in reverse. Hans presents as royal, nice, charming, gallant, but in fact is an evil dork muffin inside. Fred presents as carefree, messy, and kind of an idiot, but in reality is actually super rich and quite literally portrays a friendly monster on the outside.
Fred's Angels, Fred's Angels,
Seems just like a little OP to give him extreme wealth and the ability to come up with his own awesome theme songs. But then we also have the simple architecture of Fred's house. Now, the movie takes place in a town called San Fransokyo, where the animators have gone out of their way to make sure that every little detail about this entire city looks like a merged version of San Francisco and Tokyo, except Fred's house. Now, Fred's manor isn't necessarily any individual type of architecture, so we can't necessarily tie it back to that, but it is very distinctly different from everything else in the movie. I think it's because they are carrying out the tradition of their homeland and building a house that kind of reflects that heritage. But that's not all. There is one last detail that I think can tie it all together. We have his name, Fred or Freddy, which seems innocuous enough, but is of course short for Frederick. Specifically, Frederick IV. And Frederick is a name that hails from the Germanic, Danish is Germanic, words Frid and Rick, which translate to peaceful ruler. The super curious thing is that if this is true, what does that mean for Hans? Fred is obviously a good guy and it looks like his dad is quite literally a superhero. So what's up with them commemorating Hans all over their house? Well, my theory with no evidence at all is that Hans had a son who just rebelled against him and was going to be everything that Hans wasn't and went on to be a ruler. Or that somehow in Frozen 2 we'll see Hans redeem himself and set things straight for generations to come. Probably not. But for my question of the day, what do you guys think? Do you think Fred could be descended from Hans? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the towel section down below. But guys, as always, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. In case you didn't know, we do have a gaming channel where we have just launched an entirely new series where Jay and I are playing Rocket League, and we are super not good at it. But if you'd like to tune in and check it out, you can click right here. Or if you would like to find out how Tadashi is actually hero, you can click this video right here. But Jay, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you on Tuesday.